Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of B2B Rebellion. Really happy to have with me today Alice Courcy, who's the CMO of Cognism. Myself and Alice are both marketers, so I'm super happy to be speaking to a fellow marketer today. Typically, I end up speaking to a lot of salespeople on this, and a lot of the content we do is very much sales focused. But actually, what we offer here at Leadfeeder as well is quite a lot of stuff that's interesting from a marketer's perspective. But Alice, tell us a little bit about yourself and tell us a little bit about Cognism.
Yeah, thanks for the intro. Great to be here. So I head up marketing at Cognism. Cognism is an end-to-end, all-in-one prospecting solution, but the big thing that we do is data. So we are a GDPR compliant data provider, 40 million B2B profiles, all fully GDPR compliant. And so, yeah, I guess in the context of this, data feeds ABM. Data is absolutely the fundamentals. So quite relevant what we do, and I guess what Leadfeeder does as well.
And is it GDPR compliant? I'm joking.
It's very GDPR compliant. I don't know if I said that. Maybe I should say it again.
So yeah, in our world, it's super important to mention that over and over again. We also have the same question all the time. So are you GDPR compliant? Yes, we are GDPR compliant. 100% GDPR compliant. But it's important to bang that message home for sure. But Alice, look, I invited you here today because we're quite similar minded when it comes to a lot of things, especially around the topic of account-based marketing and whatnot. Like, we've had some great conversations about that over the past couple of weeks alone, having been on one of our webinars last week or the week before with Deck and Alex from ReachDesk. But if you were to offer up some advice to some marketers today in terms of things that they could be doing that are cost effective, like things that won't harm the pocket too much, maybe some strategies or things that are easy to go away and implement. Like, what are some of the things that you're doing or some of the tips that you give fellow marketers?
Yeah, so I was thinking about this and preparing for the interview. And I think the biggest thing that I've always done when I go into any scale up startup business is the content strategy. And content doesn't need to cost a lot of money. And so if you can get your content strategy right, it can have a massive impact. And actually, that is the one thing that you can really add value without having to go and buy expensive tech, and it can feed your lead generation campaigns. And as you actually do grow and become a bit more advanced in what you're doing, building that bedrock in content is really important. And for me, I know some people disagree with this, but I always invest in that early, and I invest in SEO strategy and content early as well. So I guess if I could just go through what I do when I first come into the business, the first thing I do is I go away, I spend a couple of days on Ahrefs. I mean, you can literally do a free trial, it doesn't need to cost you anything. And just deep dive into keywords. And I'm looking for one of those high intent search keywords that are relevant to my business, that aren't impossible to rank for, and that actually have meaningful volume. And when I say meaningful volume, it doesn't need to be massive. If the intent's right, you can actually build out a pretty clever SEO content strategy around keywords that don't have loads of volume, but can still deliver you a really consistent number of leads. And for me, the key to a predictable marketing engine is having that SEO piece running always, and then feeding into your demand generation and your campaigns piece. So that'll be the first thing I do, and I map that out. And then what I do is I work out what are going to be the key pillars that I want my content to sit around for the next, you could either do it quarterly or half yearly. I tend to map it out across half a year because SEO does take time to build up equity, but I'll go into this, but you'll start to get results from that before, obviously, 6 months. You'll start getting them month on month. But what I would then do is build out these pillars, normally 3 to 4 pillars, which are embedded around that keyword strategy. And then I'll start planning out what are the content pieces that are going to cascade down from those pillars? What are the really helpful bits of content, material and collateral that I want to produce that's going to be interesting for my target audience, but also are going to help us with that SEO strategy. So I'm trying to actually tie in 2 things, both the demand generation piece and the SEO piece, so that I can drip feed the value throughout that whole period. And then we actually have a content calendar available over at Cognism, one of our blogs, which you can take for free. And this is how we map out our strategy. And then what we do is we will start producing that week on week. Some of them are blogs, some of them are templates, some of them are infographics, some of them are mini guides. And at the end of that 6-month period, what you have are what I call these chunky big rock assets, which are full of all your SEO juice. And because you've been distributing, delivering that content throughout that time, you've been building up equity across all of these keywords. And I have done this several times and never not attained a page one Google ranking by following that strategy. So, and then at the end, you have this big piece of content which you can chunk up lots of different ways. You can be creating videos and all sorts of things and deliver that value in a lot of different ways, as well as gating it and generating leads that way. You'll have also generated lots of gated content throughout that period as well. So you weren't just waiting till the end of that time to start having something that you can start generating leads from. You'll have these mini guides, etc. And the effort is pretty low because you're actually breaking it down into like small blogs or small chunks. You're never sitting down and committing to a huge piece of content that you don't know if it's going to resonate or have any value at the end. And you're actually just building that over across time. And you might be iterating on it. Like we look at our blog rankings every week and we see what is resonating, what's not. And we start building on the stuff that is, and we kind of like cross out the stuff that isn't. So you're actually always testing as well, and you're making sure that you're continuing to build content that is resonating, which in the end will lead to a more effective lead magnet and also a better SEO page. And so at the end of all of that, you have your pillar page, which is what's going to bring you all of that SEO equity. And my big key tip here is put a schema markup on any SEO pages that you produce. These are relatively, well, it's free to generate a schema markup. You can go to, it's something called a schema markup generator, just Google it. And that is what tells Google the bits of that article that you would want to feature in the snippet or that matter. It's basically making Google able to read that piece better. And again, we've never failed to get a snippet by adding that into our pillar pages. So I'd say that's also a really key thing to do. But yeah, so that's kind of how we build on our content and our SEO strategy together, and how it plays into the demand gen piece as well.
That's super. I mean, it's it's super simple approach actually, which is great. Like it's I think when it comes to SEO, a lot of marketers are afraid of it because they don't know. Like and I understand that to a certain extent, because SEO changes quite a bit. You need to be quite well read in terms of what's happening, what are the latest changes from Google and so on. But like things like what you just mentioned there, and pillar content and whatnot, like that's not going to change. That's stuff that's there in the rule book. Like this is the type of stuff that you should be building your marketing strategy on, or at least when you have a website that you want to perform well. Mm-hmm. That's there, like the basics that you need to be getting right. And it doesn't take a lot of manpower, and people are worried, I need to bring in an SEO agency and all this type of stuff.
No, yeah, definitely.
Don't like, and like the SEO agencies for me are like, they cost a lot of money. If they don't cost a lot of money, they're not going to be very good. Mm-hmm. And if you're going with an agency that typically costs a lot of money, but you're not paying a lot of money, they're not going to care about you. So, I've got a similar view on PR as well.
I've got the same on paid. So
there you go. So like I think it's super simple the way that you put it, and it's feeding two areas of the marketing team. So you've got your demand gen piece covered, and you've also got your content piece covered. Like we're constantly on top of our SEO. We have one person on the team that's responsible for that, our head of content. And like you, as you said, like she's checking this weekly. And if there's anything that looks like it's trending downwards at all, then we're making changes. So it's about being able to react really quickly. And from her side, she works with a number of contractors who she trusts in terms of writing the content.
Yeah.
And like we also feel the content strategy myself and herself, based on the way that we want the company to go as well. Like it's a good strategy. Like this is super advice.
Yeah, I think it's just, and it's the thing is, I guess it's inexpensive. Like you just have to put the time in at the beginning, and then that's it, really.
Exactly, and I think a lot of people don't know where to start with it. Mm-hmm. Like, and people think, it's going to be expensive, like, or marketing needs to be expensive. It does if your SEO strategy is pretty shit, like, because then you're basically what you're doing is you're putting all of your attention to paid, which is like a sugar rush when it comes to driving traffic. And you're not going to have any sustainable marketing model there by just focusing on the paid piece.
Yeah, and to put this into context, so when I joined Cognism, we didn't have this in place, and we didn't have any. We maybe close like 1 or 2 deals from organic inbound a month. we now close the majority of our deals from organic inbound, and that's purely because of the strategy. So we've like tripled the number of organic inbounds that come in. We know they're relevant because we've actually optimized for that. We've optimized for those keywords with intent, and we're closing more deals. So it works throughout the funnel as well.
It's amazing. It's really good.
Cool.
Okay. So what else have you got there?
So one other thing I want to talk about, which is again, I would say is inexpensive and not costly to do. And my biggest piece of advice on this is do not overthink it, which is what I talk to my team about all the time. And it's experimenting with CTAs. So you may have a trial offering, you may not. You may have a demo and you might think those are the only CTAs that I can use. I could either do that or I'm asking for a download. My advice to you would be no, there are other CTAs you can try, get creative. What I always push my guys to think about is what CTA is going to add value that someone's going to take that action, and what could we reasonably actually give to them, and don't worry too much about how you want to scale that. So for example, we're playing around at the moment with these like masterclasses and offering reviews of people's content strategy. And straight away my team were like, oh my God, but how are we going to like actually manage that if we suddenly get loads of demand? I was like, let's create the problem. I want to create a problem and then I'm going to solve it. I don't want us to be afraid of trying something and just never see if we can actually deliver on that. So we are always experimenting with our CTAs. We're getting even more creative now. Like we created this free leads offer, which wasn't something that our business does. And we just thought, well, if worst case scenario, I'm just going to go into our product, download a list of ICP like customers for these people who request free leads, and I'm going to give them to them. And I don't mind doing that because I just want to see if it works. It's our most successful campaign. It closes the most revenue now. We've now automated the process, but we created that problem first. So get creative. Start thinking about things that you could offer that potentially aren't just a trial, a demo, and see what happens.
Yeah, I think that happens quite a bit in B2B marketing. In that people think, okay, like our number one focus should be demo requests. Yeah, like everybody always wants more demo requests. Like ask any salesperson, hey, how can marketing help you more? Or give me more demo requests. Well, of course, because it's business that's coming to you that wants to close. You know, like there's no work in it, right? It's so simple. Like we were speaking before this, that like those type of things are gold. You know, that's the gold rush you want to make sure that you're closing that. But they're coming to you being like, I like your product. Show me the product so I can give you my money. You know,
exactly.
like,
yeah.
So that like I put them to a separate side. And a lot of companies, what they do is they forget that there's any other options apart from that. Mm-hmm. So, and they're not interested in any other options because it's too much work to get them up to that level. Oh, we've tried, like we sent them out an email afterwards. They signed up for a newsletter. I'm like, yeah, okay, they signed up for a newsletter, but was it offering any value? Probably not. Yeah. Like, so like having, like what you just mentioned there, what you have is like lead gen tools. Mm-hmm. You know, like so HubSpot do it really well as well with their website grader, for example. Not part of their website model at all, or not part of their business model at all. This website grader, but it basically gives you feedback on whether or not your website is performing well from an SEO perspective. You just plug your website address in, and it gives you like a backload of feedback. But it's like a lead magnet, you know. And again, that probably started with somebody coming up with an idea, being like, "Hey, let's give this a whack." And then they absolutely smashed it. They probably didn't have anything in the background that really supported it. Like I've done these lead magnets before. If you try to have something that will support it in the background, you'll spend 6 or 7 months developing it, putting it all together. And then if it doesn't work, what do? You're after wasting like 6-7 months putting the whole thing together and wasting probably a lot of cash as well to try to get it developed. So I like
and
that.
Like half of these CTAs might flop, but you'll find the one, like we found the free leads, that's. And it actually interestingly only resonates with our sales audience. So now we're looking at how we create one for marketing. And you've got to test, you've got to experiment. It's literally text and an ad. That's it. And a bespoke landing page. I mean, that's nothing. Like that's so easy to do.
Absolutely. That's a really good tip. And I believe you have one more, right?
Yeah. So actually, just on that, I was just going to follow up with. Obviously, creating tools it's actually like really could be really time consuming. But one other tactic that we've used, which really works well, is to create a list of software providers and like categories. So I'd call it like a list of tools on a page. So essentially, and don't be afraid to put your competitors in that as well. So obviously maybe tie it into like whoever your target audience is. So we've got one for marketers and we've got one for sales, and then we've actually segmented it further. So we've got like an ABM one, and then we've got like a lead generation or prospecting one. And then we've just categorized them and listed out all of these software vendors. And then what we've done is we've implemented that into our social strategy. So we call out all the software vendors. We also outreach to them. They link through to that page because they're listed on this like top vendors in X page, which you've just put together. And you can literally, if you don't want to invest even in creating like a nice looking landing page, just create a blog post and literally list them. And then have a form at the end which asks people if they're not listening and they'd like to be to submit their request. But you'll be amazed at like the amount of traffic you end up generating, organic reach you get from just having other people linking out to something like that. It's also really easy to do, and you can come up with lots of different new categories and pages. It's been our most top performing page that we've got. So and I did it at my previous role and it was the same thing. So that's also something that's inexpensive, easy to get going, and like, give it a try.
Super tip. That's really good. We also do that with Leadfeeder as well, and that we create these listicles, of different software providers that we backlink to. And typically what they'll do as well, then they'll also see that and say, hey, they're linking to us. Maybe we'll give them a nudge as well. Say, hey, we'll link to them. And you get more organic love from that perspective, more search or SEO love when you have backlinks from bigger websites as well. So it's definitely something that works well for us as well.
Great. And then my final one is email. So I just wanted to talk about like email because I think it's always sort of underrated. In the days now where we are like sexy SaaS and like growth hackers and everything, I feel like sometimes email gets overlooked as a channel and like how important it is. So it's kind of two ways in which I would suggest that you start using email. So the first is for already contacts that are within your database. So make sure you've actually taken the time to map out nurture campaigns across the full lead lifecycle. We have these always on nurtures, which actually bring us like consistent numbers of those holy grail direct demo requests, just because we're actually pushing them along a journey there. It's just ticking. Once we put the work in to build that out, like that just sits in the background and works away. And as the leads move through the stages, they're generating demo requests. So like number one thing, put a bit of time in building out some interesting nurture programs for your lead life cycles. That's not expensive at all. Think about plain text email over complex HTML. That's what we find. Be human. We actually just like joke a little bit in our emails. We say, look, I know it's another email from us. Let us know if it's getting too much. Like just be honest and like talk them as if they're a person, not a business. I think those would be like the top tips there. And then email for a net new leads tactic is actually can be very effective, but I'm going to explain like how we use it. So what we do is you go to a database provider. Obviously, you're going to need lots of data for this, net new data that you can then feed into it. And I'm not saying it has to be Cognism, but they're not expensive. Like they aren't. It's not an expensive investment to go into. And then what we do is we set up programs where we're consistently putting in our ICP based on certain triggers into these like cold email campaigns month on month. And then we actually send them through, like if it depends what data like you go with, if they have an email tool that you can use as well, send them through that. If not, then a send grid would do a really good job. Again, not very expensive, but you want to protect your IP address from your automation marketing system. And you don't want to be putting those cold leads that don't know you into that. So make sure you separate the senders that you use, like use a different tool for that list. But the idea being that all you're trying to do with that list is get them to engage in something that pushes them into your marketing automation tool where you have your engaged contacts, and then they start to fill into all of your nurture tracks and programs. But it's a great way to continually be building that database, and also to like make sure your data's up to date, etc. So that's how we run these sort of cold list email campaigns to continually build net new leads into our database that we can then, run our webinars to, etc. Because I think as a marketer, a challenge I've always had is it's great, I've had a webinar and I've had like 700 signups, but how many are net new? Like how many of those are not an opportunity, not a customer, and are like prospect that I can go after now. And so that for us has been a really good tactic, much more so than going into these sort of really expensive content syndications where you go and get one email blast with some newsletter for like 5K, no proven knowledge of what the quality of that data is. And most of the time, and for me, all the time, they never work. So, yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, with the SoundGrid piece, so just want to dig into that a little bit in terms of what you guys are actually doing there. So what is the content that you're sending out there?
So for example, like we've got a whole list of leads who've never heard from us. They don't know us, but they sit in our ICP, and we really want to get them across into our database. So we'll just literally be giving. And at the beginning, it will often be like ungated pieces of content because we want to build up, authority with them and get them to understand that we're not like, spamming them. And then we actually use this software called Turtle, where you can gate content pieces like halfway through. So often we will be delivering like high value pieces of content, but then we'll be asking for details halfway through. And actually like the amount of form fills we get from that is huge. I think people are, even if they don't know you, willing to offer their details to you more readily if you've actually added some value. That's kind of the flow. And then they would come across into our database. We see them as like net new. And then we go on and promote like the next webinar to them, or be it like we'll run the next campaign on towards that audience that sits within X bucket. So
here's the classic question for you on this. Compliancy there, like a lot of people have been watching this be saying, this maybe doesn't sound too GDPR compliant.
Because the data that we're using is GDPR compliant. It's from Cognism. So it's fine. It's B2B legitimate interest. We're marketing to businesses and we're marketing something that is a legitimate interest towards them. And then once they've actually filled in their details, and then they've actually given us their consent to be marketed to, and that's when they fall into our database.
Okay. Interesting. Okay, that's super. Thank you for that. Really, really interesting. Alice, it's been a real pleasure to speak with you today, by the way. I've really enjoyed it. And thanks for sharing those insights for our users here.
Cool. It was really good. Great fun. Thanks, Andy.
Perfect. Thank you.